all of this disclosure stuff that's going on right now, kind of at the government level. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this congressional hearing that just happened a few days ago, or last week, and where you think this is going and what's behind it all.
Yeah. Well, as you know, the congressional hearings are happening now. They're coming forward with information about the fact that they are aware that there are UFOs or UAPs, right? And that there are these vehicles that they claim they don't know how they levitate, how they gravitate, how they propel themselves. They don't understand the propulsion systems. They don't understand where they're coming from. Are they multidimensional? Are they anomalies? Or are they from foreign countries? And so the premise behind this is, I think a lot of these UFOs or UAPs are actually our own, these unacknowledged black budget projects that run with no congressional oversight, that they themselves may honestly not be privy to the information about them. And then also there's a percentage of them, a small percentage, which I believe are actual UFOs, other amazing advanced civilizations that are watching us and have been watching us for a very, very long time. I think there's a combination of both. They're not going to be specifically clear as to which one is what, but I do think they may have an idea or understanding of some being private corporations that are being funded through these unacknowledged projects and some that are real UFOs. But what they're trying to do, and to answer your question, is they're trying to right now, they're warming us up for the fact that alien life, in fact, does exist. And the underbelly of that is the fact that there are no more wars to create for at least the military-industrial complex. I mean, they can force one, but there's nothing out there. We pretty much went and brought democracy to the world. And so now the next big race is the space race, and the next big push for trillions and trillions of dollars is in space. And how do you get the American people to donate that money, or the people of the world to donate that money through taxes? You have to have fear. And the fear is going to come from above, and they're going to promote it as potential danger, threat to global security, threat to, a threat to our safety and security here. We can't stop them from accessing our nuclear missiles. We can't stop them from accessing our bases. And so what they're doing through fear is they're building up this now need for them to come and save us. In order for them to save us, we got to say now our budget for this is going to be $10, $15 trillion. That money is going to go into unacknowledged black budget projects and contracted projects through the Pentagon. And then they're going to use that money to really make themselves very wealthy by building these weaponized space systems.
So, wow, that's a deep one. So you believe then the companies that are participants in the military industrial complex, right? And, these would be some household name companies you think are behind why all of a sudden this is getting so much traction and discussion in Washington, because that's an angle I hadn't considered, but it's got some believability associated with it, because there would be a lot of money associated with that. And so, it's kind of like that old JFK movie of, if you can't figure out why something happened, just follow the dollars. So there's, and, one thing I learned when I was president of Allergan Medical was that nothing shows up in the media unless somebody placed it in the media, and it's not from investigative reporting. Investigative reporting is such a tiny, 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 minuscule percentage of actually all the stuff that ends up in the media. You could think of everything you read in newspapers and on the news as really just paid sponsorships, because they're pumped out through what's called gross rating points, and GRPs, as we call them. And that basically drives a lot of news. And there's a spend, when I launched products like Juvederm, we would spend $30 to $50 million a year just on direct consumer advertising campaigns. And then we'd spend another 5 to 10 million just on PR, just in the United States. And the PR was, literally, and that was back when we still had reporters. Today, we don't really have reporters. What we have is shills. It's really kind of mind-boggling, because actually most outlets today don't even have reporters. They use everyone freelance. And so they're really just pitches from companies. And by the way, it's the same thing in government too, because most of the bills that end up on the congressional floor for consideration are just sponsored and written by corporations. That's a fact.
That's right.
I've been there. You know, we used to
Absolute
say
fact.
this in Washington, if you're not at the table, then you're just on the menu.
Mm.
And that's just the way it is. So you're basically saying something that has some basic resonance for me, especially, you know, is this why there's been such a push also for this Space Force and, you know, this militarization of space? And that also happened during the Trump presidency. But was that really just because people that were in the military industrial complex, which, by the way, they hire all the former generals, right? That's how it works. You know, those former generals become senior executives at these large companies like Northrop Grumman or Boeing or Lockheed Martin, right? Any one of these companies. And you know, L3 and you can just go on, Raytheon, the list goes on and on. And so that's a really powerful statement. And it frankly is the only thing that makes sense as to why these congressional leaders are all jumping onto it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a money grab. Nobody can really, not nobody, but the masses can't really see it. They're just like, oh man, there's aliens now, or, you know, UFOs or whatever. But there's a lot more behind it. When they start publicly coming out with things like this, there's always an agenda, and they control literally every word and every sentence, every verb, every vowel, you know what I'm saying? And so they understand the frequencies. They know how to get to people through frequencies, and they know how to generate a certain level of fear and questioning in people's minds. And the thing is now, hey, instead of diverting the money to these black budget projects and having to go through these inquiries about where this 15, 20 trillion disappeared to, now they can say, oh, we took the 20 trillion and we put it over here because we have to have the Space Force funded properly. We got to create space-based weapons on the Earth defense system and so forth and so on. And those generals and all those people who are sitting on those boards and running those companies now, it's just a cash out. You're talking about billions of dollars, even in the trillions of dollars. People are making a lot of money. They're going to build some of this stuff, but they don't build all of it. Sometimes they build loss leaders. So they'll go and they'll get a big contract from the Pentagon for $20 million, $30 million. And then they'll go, oh, okay, now we have a working concept. We need now to fund this for 2 or 3 billion. They'll get that money, and then they'll build something that doesn't work, knowing it's not going to work, and say, well, we need a little bit more. Give us another 3 or 4 billion to keep developing this. And years go by. Before you know it, they've got 15, 20, 30 billion dollars inside the hamper, and they haven't produced anything that actually works.
Sounds like what happened with the vaccine.
Yes.
Just saying. I don't know. I mean,
that's
all of that was funded. You know, it's like, you know, I called out Albert Bourla, who is the CEO of Pfizer, on my LinkedIn, because I have a lot of pharma. I've been in the pharma industry for, you know, 20 plus years, and I have a lot of pharma followers. And when I called him out on that whole Project Veritas thing, and I said, why are you not responding? You know, and I tagged him in it. Why are you not responding and telling us what happened? Was this guy that was claiming this gain of function research and everything, was he a real former employee, or is this some, you know, fake or something like that? Just tell us. And nothing. And it was funny because I could see on LinkedIn who read all of the, you know, posts, and it literally made the rounds through all the senior executive rank at Pfizer. So everyone there saw it. And I'm sorry, but it's like, I'm just not going to sit back and not call it out, or at least question. And I think, you know, this is what's happening. People that don't know how corrupt our government system is need to know. You need to know. It's corrupt as fuck.
Man, this gain of function research should have never happened in the first place. Obviously, there was an agenda behind why they were doing it, because they were planning to release it eventually at one time, or leak it by accident on purpose, which is exactly what happened. You know, and so people don't understand how broad and wide these conspiracies are, because in this particular situation, you're talking about planning that goes on for decades. They don't plan like within a week or a month or even a year or 5 years. Their planning is a 30, 40, 50-year plan to execute something. And so when something becomes that big and that broad and that vast, people can't see it for what it really is a lot of the times.
Isn't that interesting, though? Because I think that's true with a lot of things in the world right now. It's like, it's almost like we're splitting into this world where so many people just refuse to see. So we've got films like this, you know, Sound of Freedom film, which is, you know, becoming quite popular, and it's faced a lot of adversity to get into the marketplace. I mean, even down to certain movie theaters, playing that movie and there's no air conditioning in that theater type of thing, right? And it's kind of hilarious stuff, but it's not so funny, and it's still been very, very successful.
Yeah.
But the issue there is that people don't want to see what they don't want to see.